Now we can move on from one group of workers having a tough time to another. As we've discussed in previous editions of Union TV, agency and temporary work is becoming more and more prevalent. Unite's campaign to win employment rights for these workers continues and is now beginning to get a positive response from the government. So I've been speaking to Derek Simpson, Joint General Secretary of Unite, about how important it is that these workers are protected and that our campaign is a success.
It's not agency and temporary work, it's agency and temporary workers. It's people who don't have a proper employment contract. They're supplied either through an agency, in which case they're not employed by the people that they're actually, where they're actually working, or if they are, they're taken on a temporary contract, which means that it can be a very short period, and there's a whole uncertainty about those conditions. Indeed, one automatically terminates, the other just by a phone call. And generally it doesn't have the normal employment terms and conditions like holiday pay and holiday allowances and a whole range of normal items that people would expect in a normal employment contract.
I've heard the argument this is popular with workers, particularly women who enjoy the flexibility. Is that not really the case?
Well, it can be. I mean, there's no argument. I mean, if there is an opportunity for that kind of work and it suits people's style, the difficulty is when there's no other alternative. And the problem is that everyone, including those who want normal, secure, consistent and reliable employment, are being forced down this agency and temporary line. That's the problem. If there's a choice in it, that's fine. But there is no choice. People are being employed in these terms and conditions, which effectively undermine those terms and conditions for the other employed people.
So how many people does it affect?
Well, it varies, but I actually think they talk about 1 million, 2 million, but the reality is that it's growing and it's extending, and eventually it will be the de facto employment terms, which is bad news, quite frankly.
What does Unite want the government to do about it?
Well, I think the government should introduce some sort of legislation that protects agency and temporary workers by ensuring that the terms and conditions that have been paid to what they call core employees applies to agency and temporary workers. In other words, they don't undercut collective bargaining agreements and industry standard payments. They're actually employed properly on terms and conditions, because I actually think that that would bring an end to agency and temporary work in the way it's being done, because the advantage to an employer is there's no commitment to the worker.
Thanks very much, Derek. Now, is there anything that the viewers can do to support Unite's campaign?
Well, I think there is, because we obviously are campaigning politically with the government, and so clearly MPs need to be questioned on this, urged to encourage the government to do something about agency and temporary workers and to legislate and bring in the kind of controls that protect workers.